Our next guest, Dan Perry, calling this board a, quote, vulgar non-starter as global governance, but says it's useful for getting a Gaza deal done. So Dan joins us now. He's the former Associated Press chief editor for Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Start with an explanation there of what you were writing about.
This board of peace looks like a Trump boondoggle. I mean, he's going to run the whole thing. He is demanding $1 billion per country from countries who want a permanent seat. He will determine who gets in without paying. He will control the budget. He would be able to approve or veto any actions. I mean, it's ridiculous, and no constitutional democracy will sign on without major arm twisting. Israel kind of did, and it took just that because Israel at this point is a client state, or rather Netanyahu is a vassal of Trump, essentially. So he had to do it. That said, ridiculous though it is, the UN certainly is broken. I mean, the UN Security Council is paralyzed by veto power and represents the world as it was in 1945 and not as it is today. It's missing India and the entire global south and so forth and so on. That's why the Security Council can take no action against Russia's crimes in Ukraine, because Russia would veto anything. The General Assembly, which would be the parliament of the UN, is a collection of autocracies and dysfunctional countries mostly. Nothing good can come of that. Ironically, the main thing the General Assembly did in its entire history was to pass a resolution that was taken seriously and led to the creation of the State of Israel in 1947. Yet UN bodies are fantastically and maniacally anti-Israel to a level of obsession that is actually tragicomic. So UN is broken, that's clear. But I have my doubts whether this imperious Trump scheme could possibly be what replaces it. I think more reasonable would be to fix the UN. That said, however, Trump goes around bragging about the 8 wars he stopped, which is mostly a fiction. But it is true that he achieved something real between Armenia and Azerbaijan.
Right.
And it is true that he ended the war in Gaza by basically forcing Netanyahu to take yes for an answer. However, nothing good is going to really happen in Gaza going forward without the key point of the 20 points in the plan being implemented, which is Hamas disarming. Hamas clearly hopes that it can avoid that somehow. And I think the main action of the Board of Peace, the first action that it should do, is to hold a massive public event and make very, very clear to Hamas and to the Palestinian people that reconstruction in Gaza is real and imminent, and there's tens of billions in escrow, essentially, and it's going to happen, but it's only going to happen if Hamas steps aside. I want to see polls showing 90% of Palestinians want this, because that would have an effect on Hamas. This has to be messaged, and if the platform for that message is the Board of Peace, so be it.
To those points about the potential for peace in Gaza and whether it sticks, I had a kind of interesting conversation with Jonathan Conricus on the show yesterday. I was, used to be the spokesperson for the IDF when he was on active duty there, and here's what he said about what he sees in the not-so-distant future.
The way things are going, there will be another war between Gaza and Israel in the not very distant future. And I say that with tremendous sadness, because that isn't what I want for Israelis, and it's not what I want for the Arabs who live in Gaza. But if Hamas isn't disarmed and isn't dissolved as a political organization in power of Gaza, we're going to have trouble.
What would you say about that, Dan?
I would say about that indeed there might be another war in Gaza if Trump allows it, and I am not so sure Trump is going to allow it, because his signature achievement to date, as I said, is ending the war in Gaza. Seeing that torn asunder with the renewal of the war and all the horror that this war has visited upon the people of Gaza seems to me to be unlikely. But on the other hand, it's true that, as I say, no reconstruction would happen, and probably eventually another war will break out, whether Israel initiates it in the near future or Hamas, by its very nature, provokes it eventually. I do think it is inevitable, so Jonathan is right in that regard. What Hamas is clearly trying to create is a situation as we had in Lebanon over decades with Hezbollah, where Hezbollah wasn't the government, but they were effectively in charge because they were more powerful than the military. Hamas must be brought to heel. And there are a variety of options that can happen if they're not, including starting to allow Palestinians to move into other parts of Gaza that Israel currently controls, or to leave the territory even, which I don't think Hamas wants. but leaving them in tent cities and living in ruins is not a plausible thing. And sending in reconstruction materials worth tens of billions of dollars and possibly more is also not likely. I don't see the donors willing to do that if Hamas is essentially, effectively in charge, commandeering the materials to build new attack tunnels to prepare their next assault on Israel and hijacking aid to use as patronage. I just don't think that game will be played again by anyone, including Arab donors. But it really comes down to Egypt, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE, especially Qatar, to make clear to Hamas that the gig is up.
Right.
And as I say, the Board of Peace could potentially, despite its absurdity, play a positive role in this regard.
We'll see. Dan, as always, thank you.